saw them, this mass of ants with wings coming towards us.
The invincible Luftwaffe gets the order to attack England. A handful of Royal Air Force pilots face the onslaught. The destiny of Europe hangs on this epic battle for the sky.
Wir als Piloten.
We as pilots were entirely convinced at the time that we could defeat the Royal Air Force.
April 1940. The conquest of Europe has begun. Hitler's armies storm through Holland, Belgium, Denmark, Norway, and France. Remnants of British and French battalions trapped on the beach at Dunkirk are pounded by the Luftwaffe and blasted by German artillery. France surrenders. Hitler dances a victory jig. Only one obstacle stands in the way of his conquest of England.
The Battle of Britain is about to begin. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty. So bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour.
General Adolf Galland, Luftwaffe. Veteran of combat in Spain and over Europe. Advisor to, and sometimes nemesis of, Luftwaffe Chief Hermann Göring. He will eventually tally 104 kills.
Hitler himself didn't want the conflict with Britain. Quite definitely not. I heard him say so personally. He said that, I hate to have to wage this war against England. The English people are so much like us. It's unfortunate that I'm forced to do this.
We were in a situation where everybody could see, certainly the fighting men could see, but everybody else could now see that this country was in the gravest danger that it had been in since the Norman invasion in 1066.
The Luftwaffe seems invincible. Göring arrogantly assures Hitler that Britain will beg for peace in a matter of weeks or be destroyed from the air.
We as pilots were entirely convinced at the time that we could defeat the Royal Air Force.
Hitler plans Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of England. German troops and armor gather on the French coast, ready to cross the Channel once the Luftwaffe drives the outnumbered RAF from the sky. Only 700 RAF planes stand against the Luftwaffe's 3,000. British pilots are largely untested, young men barely out of their teens. Johannes Mackie Steinhoff, Luftwaffe. A brilliant leader, he'll survive 5 crashes and nearly die in the flames of one of the first jet fighters. Steinhoff will score 176 kills.
The Battle of Britain differed from other battles, from other campaigns of World War II, in that it was basically a struggle between 2 air forces. No ground troops were involved. The Navy was not involved.
The German strategy: lure fighter command into combat and destroy it. British codebreakers have cracked the German secret code. The encoded messages, known as Ultra, warn Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding of the German strategy to deliver a death blow to the RAF. In response, he shrewdly commits his Spitfires and Hurricanes with care.
We realized very quickly, due to the quick reactions of the Royal Air Force, that they knew when to engage and when to turn back. We always tried to lure them away from England, and they simply never came. Or when they did engage, then they showed that they were really exceptional pilots in those groups. Really very exceptional.
Dowding stubbornly fights the politicians to build a modern fighter force. Among his demands are concrete runways and bulletproof windscreens for his pilots. He calls his pilots my chicks, and his chicks are ready to die for him.
He never swerved from his determination to do it. He wouldn't be put off. He wouldn't be distracted. He was a very stubborn old boy. Not for nothing was he called Stuffy. But he conceived it. He had a system, and he didn't deviate from it for a moment, and it worked.
Oh, the spirit in the fighter squadron of those days was remarkably high. Of course, we were obviously the best squadron in the Royal Air Force, and the Royal Air Force itself was beyond peer, obviously.
Wing Commander James E. Johnny Johnson, Royal Air Force. He will become the leading British ace with 38 kills.
Any claims, Johnny? 109 destroyed, Freddie, yes. Oh, good show.
Men gave a little more than they normally did because of this factor of high morale and the leadership, and I think that it was one of the greatest and most significant factor in the Battle of Britain.
So we had no worries, and not overconfident, but supremely confident, I think, in our abilities. Slightly startled by the numbers when they appeared. On the other hand, one could then say, well, we outnumbered them 1 to 15 or something, and, which produced a laugh now and again.
Dowding's chicks peck at the Luftwaffe, taking their toll. 20 British fighters take on 100 of the enemy. Goering is frustrated, furious. He orders increased attacks on fighter command bases and radar stations. Before the invasion can be launched, the Luftwaffe must control the skies. Time is critical. Autumn storms will soon rage over the channel, making an invasion impossible. The pilots of Fighter Command will not quit.
Bless 'em all, bless 'em all, the long and the short and the tall. Bless all the sergeants and WO1s, bless all the corporals and their thinking sons, 'cause we're saying goodbye to them all. As back to their billets they crawl, you'll get no promotion this side of the ocean, so cheer up, my lads, bless 'em all.
Bless 'em all, bless 'em all.
Feeling the pressure of Hitler's mounting rage, Goering plans a knockout blow. August 13, 1940, Aldertag, Eagle Day. The Luftwaffe attacks in full fury. British radar pinpoints the assault, and the Royal Observer Corps alerts Fighter Command. Dowding's early warning system works. Spitfires and Hurricane fighters are dispatched with speed and accuracy. Wing Commander Desmond Sheen. He will tally 7+ kills. He is among the first to intercept the German onslaughts of Aldertag, Eagle Day.
We were sent off a squadron, there were 11 of us, to intercept a formation of 100+ coming from Norway. I attacked one, it blew up, and it had I thought it was a bomb underneath, but in fact it was a fuel tank, and it just disintegrated. I touched another one, which I think went down in flames. That was one of the worst defeats.
Suddenly we saw them, this mass of ants with wings coming towards us. Our leader took us just above the Neshmet 110, who, strangely enough, formed themselves into a defensive wing. I dived into it, and I remember just distinctly closing my eyes, firing my guns and diving through the middle of it and coming out the other side. And it was all just a mess of German iron crosses and not knowing what you were doing. But that was my first combat. I remember it well.
Goering orders his fighter pilots to stay glued to the Luftwaffe bombers. It is a critical tactical error.
These escort missions were very unpopular because we had to fly at the same altitude and speed as the bomber formations, which meant that we could not utilize the tactical superiority of our fighter aircraft, the speed, the climbing capability, and the maneuverability. And as a result, we suffered great losses at the hands of the English.
Yeah, we took a lot of advantage of the way the German escorts were tied to the bomber formation, which did pin them down quite a bit.
On Eagle Day, Fighter Command's losses are half that of the Luftwaffe. But damage to airdromes and radar stations leave England on the edge of defeat. A miracle is needed. It arrives in the form of a mixed blessing. On the night of August 24th, a German navigator miscalculates and bombs rain down on a residential section of London. In reprisal, Churchill orders the RAF to bomb Berlin. Humiliated, Hitler orders a shift in strategy. The Luftwaffe will concentrate its attacks on London. It is a fateful decision. London is devastated, and thousands of civilians die. Fortunately, the RAF gains time to rebuild. The Battle of Britain will reach a fiery crescendo. Ultra codebreakers reveal to Fighter Command that the Luftwaffe plans another decisive battle on September 15, 1940. Dowding realizes that now is the time to commit his entire fighter force of 600 planes. Spitfires and Hurricanes rise like hornets to meet the invaders.
Eine ganze Perlenschnur von Spitfires.
I sighted a long string of Spitfires, the so-called snake. I attacked what I thought was the last plane in the string and had good position behind him. But he wasn't the last one. He was the second to last.
And a lot of 109s came round, and I remember sitting there and saying how pretty these are, these little aeroplanes with blue underneath and black crosses. And then all of a sudden my aircraft shuddered and there were holes in both wings, and unknown to me there were holes in the fuselage as well. But the chap that was shooting at me overshot. The next moment there's a 109 sitting in front of me. And you know, if you're like in a very frightened and angry thing, I just pressed the firing button and wasted an awful lot of ammunition of 30-odd seconds. And the next moment there was a woof and down he went near Maidstone.
Without question, our most, or at least for myself, my most serious threat was from the English pilots, especially those pilots who flew the Spitfire and the Hurricane.
As the battle progresses, it is clear that Goering's hopes of achieving air supremacy are shattered.
The mastery of the sky was lost by the Germans at that point. There was no strategic concept. There was only a tactical concept. There were no fighters with a great range. They were planned to defend the Reich, to defend the cities. There were no refueling tanks. And in addition to that, we had this amateurish leadership. Well, they should have known from the very beginning that this was something that they could not win.
Refusing to accept the initial setbacks, Goering orders a second attack. Dowding's miserly policy of conserving planes and pilots, coupled with the tactical advantages of fighting over their own territory, give his young chicks the decisive edge.
Well, I think the Battle of Britain was the safest battle for a fighter pilot possible. We had good radar control, good aircraft. We flew from nice warm bases. The average trip lasted, say, 50 minutes.
A sergeant pilot being picked up out of the drink in the nick of time. It happens every week. Shot down, nearly drowned. But if you think he's finished, you're as crazy as Hitler.
In the Battle of Britain, of course, we were fighting over our own territory. We were flying sometimes 4 or 5 sorties a day. And, you know, we were pretty tired.
Dass unsere Jagdflieger 1000 Einsätze und mehr geflogen.
Our fighter pilots flew 1,000 sorties each. When you look at the English, they flew 80 or 100 sorties, and then they were pulled out and used in their home base. We could not afford to do this. The German fighter pilot would have to continue his mission for as long as he was physically capable, until he was wounded.
After the battle, Goering rails at his combat-weary fighter pilots, accusing them of cowardice.
The German fighter pilots came to the Channel coast triumphant, victorious, after their rapid successes in Europe. And by Goering's orders and Counter's orders, and coming down to the Channel coast and threatening them to have them shot and so on, and telling them to do this, he destroyed their morale.
On the next day, the second Luftwaffe assault is beaten back. This will be the last major daytime raid over England. 2 days later, Hitler abandons Operation Sea Lion.
And this is one thing that I think is extraordinary that the Germans didn't pick on. They put all their effort into escorting bombers over to attack London and the military bases and the naval bases, whereas if they'd taken a good proportion of their fighter arm to attack our forward airfields and destroy our fighters on the ground, the outcome of the battle might have been a lot different.
I think, vital factor in the battle, apart from fighter pilot against fighter pilot, was radar, without doubt. Because as we took off, we would get our instructions from the ground control. He would give us a direction or vector to fly, and the approximate altitude, which is usually fairly accurate, and also a fairly accurate figure of how many aircraft were approaching.
The toll of the Battle of Britain is enormous in aircraft and lives. The Germans lose 1,700 planes, the RAF 900. Each side sacrifices more than 1,000 pilots.
If you ask, what were the mistakes that caused the loss of the Battle of Britain, you have to cast a wider net and ask yourself, was the Luftwaffe suited or built for and armed for such a purpose? Were the airplanes suited? Were the tactics suited? And then you come up against all sorts of hurdles, and you realize that the Luftwaffe was never meant to fight Britain.
The Battle of Britain is fought against seemingly insurmountable odds. Many factors, tactical and technical, shape the outcome. But in the final analysis, the victory belongs to the brave young pilots of the Royal Air Force. Wounded, bleeding, but still proud, Britain celebrates her survival. The sun has not yet set on the British Empire.
There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see.
Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few.
Love and laughter and peace ever after. Tomorrow, when the world is free.